Hello, homosexuals. Welcome back. It's been a while. You know, guys, recently I finished watching Metal Gear Solid 3. It was a crazy game. And you know, my favorite game, one of the favorite games of all time for me, is Final Fantasy 15. The game it could have been, it never was. I've spoken about it many times. I've had huge nostalgia kicks over that game many times. Final Fantasy 15 should have been a completely different game. I mean, we only got, realistically, anywhere between 1/5 to 1/6 of the game that it was supposed to be. And there were so many breadcrumbs that we were shown of what Final Fantasy 15 was supposed to be, but that game was going through development hell. They cut so much content. They cut so many cutscenes. They rewrote the story so many times. So, you know, what Final Fantasy 15 could have been as a game is just something that we will never get to experience, and it's one of the best games never made. Now, the game that we did get, when we look at Final Fantasy 15, it was pretty good, and the characters were good. I definitely enjoyed the storyline. I enjoyed the sexy hot chicks, which we don't really get anymore ever since Final Fantasy 15. But of course, this video is about Metal Gear Solid. Around that same time came out Metal Gear Solid 5. And you know, I think that's everything I have to say about Final Fantasy 15. I mean, it's one of the best soundtracks in all of gaming as well. It really is one of the last hoorahs of gaming that we've now seen forever, and Final Fantasy 16 is absolute dog trash that soy boy retards really like. Anyway, and I'm thinking about something right now on that, and I'm gonna leave it there, but let's just jump into, I don't know, I could mention it, but I'm not. Anyway, so, you know, moving on from that though, around the same time came out Metal Gear Solid 5. That was a game that I really loved. It was another example of a game that was super good. Great story, great characters, sexy chicks, specifically quiet, nice breasts, quiet, good job. I liked the multiplayer quite a bit of Metal Gear Solid 5 as well. And of course, sadly, what we ended up having happen is that the game was not finished. Metal Gear Solid 5 was a game that never fully got completed by Kojima and Konami. Now, I have heard people say that they like past Metal Gear games. I've heard people say that some of the other ones are good, and I just never bothered because of graphics to some extent. I do not like bad graphics. But I've heard people say that these older games are good. And holy mother effing crap, bro. When Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater, recently, the remake, for Metal Gear Solid 3 came out, holy effing crap. For one, so many great characters. The characters, man, the amount of oozing charisma, oozing personality in all of them. Almost all of them, especially the male characters. Great archetypes, great characters, all across the board. Eva is hot. We have a hot chick in the game. We actually have a straight relationship between a man and a woman, Snake and Eva. And, you know, it does tie into the plot line, but regardless, we don't really have straight characters anymore these days. And it sucks, and I hate it. I've grown so tired of this dog filth. And this is just one of those games that shows us what we've lost. Dude, when I was watching the game recently, just all throughout experiencing it, I was constantly in woe. I was like, oh my gosh, dude, this is crazy. This is what we're losing nowadays. This is what we're missing. This is what we've lost. We don't have games like this anymore. We don't have games like Metal Gear Solid 3 anymore. And just going through the game, I was like, holy effing crap, this is so freaking good. It absolutely amazes me what games used to be. And now, I do have some criticisms to get into. However, it amazes me watching the game, what games used to be, what we used to have, how characters used to be written, the fact that we used to have straight relationships between men and women. Literally, Eva has scenes where she's just constantly sexualizing herself to allure Snake for plotline reasons. And it's just like, you will never see stuff like that anymore these days. And she would not be as hot as she was in this game. And she looks pretty good for the remake, by the way. I would say that they didn't screw it up at all. They did a really good job on it. And I loved the relationship between her and Snake. I really liked the performances by her and also David Hayter as Snake. And then just all the other characters. It was just terrifically delivered. It's one of those stories where the plot line, you know, I've talked about this with multiple games, where some games are only as good as the characters. The characters are what uphold the narrative. Then you have other games where really the plot line is much more important than the characters. And there's some good examples of that. I'm forgetting on the spot. But you know, it's so crazy because then you also have stories that have a great plot line and they also have great characters. And that's what we got with Metal Gear Solid 3 and also 5. The two games I now have gone through. Really strong characters and amazing. And by the way, I thought 5 was a prequel, but I guess it's actually not. I guess it came after Metal Gear Solid 3. So anyways. And apparently they want to reboot the Metal Gear franchise, which I don't know how that's going to go. I mean, you know, Kojima clearly is a hack. When you see what he's made and how much I freaking hate, and I never made videos about Death Stranding 2. I was going to. I hate that game. I went through a good portion of the story before I was like, this sucks and I'm out. It was so bad, and Kojima's such a hack, and he is smelling his own methane far too much. He's got methane poisoning now, and he's just not whatever he used to be. But you look at something like Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, and it just shows to us what we're now missing. It shows to us what we once had. It shows to us how good things used to be, why we used to love storytelling in gaming. And I would say that the game has a almost perfect mixture of gameplay and storytelling. The pacing between the two is really great. And again, it's one of those stories that for once I'm actually sitting around laughing at what the characters think and say. I'm on the edge of my seat, waiting to hear what the characters say, waiting to see what happens next in scenes. There's actual anticipation. There's actual joyous anxiety for where the story's going, where the characters are headed. You're not bored. You're not like, oh, geez, it's this character again. And you know, what makes it so great is that most of the characters are white. We don't have any colored characters. And that's a part of what made the game so great. We do have a forced in black guy, and I'm like, why is he in the game? Why is he there? Why is he speaking? Why is he in the scenes? He leans so heavily into like being hood or being some kind of just a weird characterization of a black guy. It's just really annoying because it's like, who gives a freaking crap, dude? I have so much fatigue over black people, and now having black people, just any black dude in freaking Metal Gear Solid 3, you know he doesn't belong in there in the game. He's in scenes, well, specifically the end scene of the game, and he's just completely a sore thumb. It's like, what the frick is this dude doing here? Yeah, it's gay, and it's lame. But regardless, I mean, that is woke. That is DEI being thrown into the game, but that's it. And you only have to tolerate listening to the black dude talk for at all, any 2 seconds, like only a couple of times throughout the game. So most of the game is just white people and good white people characters. Everyone's cool. Characters are awesome. The designs to characters are great. The archetypes to them, great. Everything's great. And the women are sexy. Well, the boss has a man jaw, looks like a dude, and that's woke and that's gay, and there's everything about the boss is woke and gay. The fact that the boss is a woman is woke and gay. They gave a masculine father kind of archetype to a woman. Kojima definitely has a freaking fetish for women being in roles of power, women being stoic, just like most of these Japanese or anime-centered dudes. They all have a hard-on for women who are better than them. So it just means that you're an inferior male, which is pathetic, and you should change that about yourself, but you don't. So anyways, screw those guys for that, just simply speaking, but regardless. Going back to a previous point I was making, though, is that going through this game was reminding me, holy effing crap, this is what we're missing now today. And the amount of times I was sitting there and I was watching these scenes, the amount of times, you know, a lot of modern games, I don't care what's going on screen. I will just start ignoring it. And I'll just be listening to the game just to get, you know, a feeling of what the game is. But holy mother effing crap, bro. Metal Gear Solid 3? Snake Eater? Oh my gosh. The amount of times we were going through scenes and I was just like, dude, this is so good. And I would put down what I was doing to watch the cutscenes. Ocelot is a great adversarial character in the game. He is an amazing character, super hilarious. He's basically a Joker archetype. He's the jester. He's kind of based on like a Cain and Abel kind of relationship to Snake, where he doesn't want to see really, and he's kind of like Loki. He's kind of like the Joker. You want to cause mischief to everyone in the world around you, but you don't really want to kill anybody because you're a jester. The world is a play. And this is a huge thing about the Joker and characters like them, like Loki, like the Joker archetype, is that characters like these, they love to see the world in action, in motion, crazy things happen. They love to see things occurring and people having drama and feuds with each other, or you as the jester. And they like the mischief that they cause, but they don't like seeing anyone actually get hurt because they don't care about whether or not someone's actually hurt. They care about the fact that the play is almost over. They don't like the idea that, you know, Cain does not like the idea in like a Joker and Batman, Cain and Abel kind of relationship, because obviously there's other ways that a Cain and Abel relationship can be, but it's a variation on Cain and Abel where Cain does not actually want to kill Abel because, right, they are a familial pairing of archetypes. And Cain instead, he wants to cause mischief onto Abel so that then Cain can continue to have a state of play with Abel. And that's something that you get out of Ocelot in this game with Snake. It is terrifically paced all throughout the game, for the most part. You know, some moments are silly, but you understand why later, because a lot of people are double agents, and it's actually really interesting, the layers of double agents in this game. But a lot of people are double agents. There's a whole bunch of stuff going on there. It's really cool in that sense of the storyline. And, you know, it just reminds me, this game, there was a time where we used to care about intrigue and spectacle, and we used to care about good storytelling, good writing, good characterization. We used to care about depth to the storyline and not making something that was generic and tropey. Everything's about tropes nowadays. You know, something I really love about the old Kojima games, even if it wasn't all Kojima, because clearly it was the men around Kojima that made him great. It wasn't Kojima himself. But a lot of these Kojima games, a big thing about them, specifically the Metal Gear games, is that there's always something deeper going on beneath the surface layer. And there's all this noise, and there's this whole narrative playing out that you think and that you bought into, that you think is real. But then as we're going through the storyline, you're learning, oh, holy crap, these characters are this, and these characters are that. And this person's actually doing this thing, and this person has allegiances to this group. And there's all this obfuscation, but then there's eventual clarity by the end of the story. Dude, hold up. Here's what's crazy for me. I said this multiple times. Going through the game, I was like, holy effing crap. Stories used to be so good once upon a time. They used to be good. They used to be worthwhile. They used to be something that was worthy of spending money on and experiencing. Going through this game, the amount of times I was sitting there just taken aback, and I was like, holy crap, this is what we're missing. Holy crap, this is what games used to be. Holy crap, this is why gaming used to matter. This is why it used to be cool. This is why we used to buy games. Nowadays, I keep sitting beside myself and I'm like, why does anyone care about this stuff? It's lame and it's gay. And that's all it is. But you see this stuff and it reminds you, holy crap, we came from an era of good freaking crap. And we are so far removed from everything that's good now today. You have no idea the amount of sorrow, the amount of, in some part, anger. Some level of anger, although I've kind of already gone through all my anger and now it's just, yeah, it's just grief and sorrow of what has happened to the gaming industry, what's happened to our characters, how cool everything used to be. Dude, Snake is just that freaking guy. The amount of scenes, the starting scenes to the game are amazing. The way that we just set up the characters, the way that we set up the tone of who is Snake, and dude, this is a freaking cool guy. You just feel it immediately and you're like, yeah, I'm saddled in. I'm ready for the storyline. Where are we going? Let's go. I mean, you're completely buckled in from the start. They do a great job of just getting you settled in. And then you're right on track for experiencing what one heck of a great story. I mean, it's just, and obviously, right, the game was heavily inspired by James Bond films and stuff like it, but regardless, anyway. The fact that we have a sexy woman in the storyline that has sex with Snake, the fact that they flirt with each other, the fact that she's trying to arouse him and get him to kiss her and all this stuff, the fact that that is in the story, it's something that's just not in any games anymore. So many characters are asexual, loser freaks. The fact that these are normative people who are attractive and they're having a really believable and compelling relationship. So good. So good. You have no idea. And it just makes me look back and I realize we have lost so much, and it pains me to see how far games have fallen ever since. So that's the story. That's the game for me. That's just kind of stepping away from it. I love it. I'm taken aback and I just can't believe, I mean, it's one of the best games. There's a reason why people say it's one of the best games ever made, and this is back when people used to have standards. They don't have anymore, but back during, like, you know, before 2014, largely speaking, a lot of people had high standards for games, and then that just completely fell off. I mean, there's so many games that were painfully average back then that people were critical of, and now games are bad. They all have shills. Bad games apparently now are average or something. Like, the games that are literal, legitimate 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10, apparently these are just legitimate products. So anyways, it's just ridiculous how far the standards have dropped. But moving on from that, here's where we're at, okay? One of the most annoying things about this game, and by the way, the bosses, good creativity there. I like the execution that they had for the bosses, but the biggest issue in the game is the boss as a character. Again, a woman placed into the role of a wise, sage, stoic-like male archetype. This is propaganda. This is to make you accept and believe into the idea. If you're a soy boy, you will happily accept this idea that a woman can be exactly like a man. The fact that she beats the living daylights out of Snake about 5 times throughout the game in different ways. 4 times she wins hand-to-hand combat encounters, but I believe there's a 5th time that I think it's the torture scene where she's just beating the living daylights out of Snake. It's just like, the boss is literally a humiliation ritual for the masculine male character of the story. It is some weird fetish that Kojima has, that this tough, buff, awesome, cool dude that you want to be him, and chicks want to bang, right? That's the kind of character he is. Snake's awesome. a really amazing character, one of the best characters in all of gaming. And again, these games, man, they're so good, and it just makes me so sad about the fact that we've never moved on from Metal Gear. No game coming out since has been as good as the Metal Gear series, let's just face it. And it's like, and I'm still waiting to this day for a game to actually come out and take me, sweep me off my legs and be like, yeah, this is how writing is done right. I know I can make those games, by the way. Check out my books if you want to support the channel and you actually appreciate what I'm doing around here, then please go check out, it's in the video description. Go check out my work on Amazon. Just buy any of my books. It's really good stuff. It's stuff that should be in our movies and video games today. But regardless, you know, it's like finally in such a long time, and it's because of a remake of a game from like 20 years ago, then I'm finally seeing a story in the longest time since basically Final Fantasy VII Remake. That was a good game. You know, some negatives, but overall great characters, great pacing of the plot. There's so much that is so good about Final Fantasy VII Remake. Rebirth, I have a bunch of things to criticize there. Rebirth pissed me off, but regardless. Remake was really good. Love the characters, love the pacing, love Tifa, nice breasts, motorboat out of 10. But it's been forever since I've experienced a genuinely good story out of a game that's new. You know, Final Fantasy VII Remake. Super good game. And Rebirth was halfway good and then really bad for the other portion. It was Clown World nonsense, but that game's a remake. This game is a remake. The only good games are games from a previous era of writers and storytellers and creatives. It's not the games coming out today. And so sad because I'm waiting for, like, please, can we have something that's good? And nothing good comes out. Nothing good is available. Everything that comes out is woke dog filth is what it is. And it always has to have a brown or black person in the story. And we don't want that. And I'm fed up with it. And I just want sexy hot chicks that are specifically white. You know, I want European storytelling with good characters and good plot lines. And that's just what these games used to be. You know, this is a great example of a game that had a great plot line and characters. Anyways, back to the boss. Yeah, she beats the living daylights many times as a humiliation ritual fetish by Kojima against Snake. And it's just this weird thing where it's like, you know, they got away with a lot. A lot of these woke developers, they got away with a lot back then when a lot of these games were first coming out. And that's because the dudes were awesome. They were cool. They were great characters. The writing was good. The humor was great. The amount of times I was laughing, and I didn't realize Metal Gear Solid 3 was actually a funny game. But again, Ocelot is a great character. Hilarious moments. Everyone has funny moments. It's just, they were getting away with the proto-woke nonsense they were doing because it was good. So you could overlook the blatant bull crap. Oh, a woman who is supposed to be a man, clearly. But, you know, we have to equate women to men for some reason. You can accept these things, not because it's okay, and not because it makes the game better. It doesn't, makes the game worse. But everything else, the execution and the delivery of everything else is so good, you just forget all about the bullcrap that they're pulling on you, and you're just like, I love this. This is amazing. These characters are great. You know? And the plot line's great, and like, you're just saddled in and you don't want to leave. That's how good it is. Well, sadly, you know, we're so far into the future now since the time that Metal Gear Solid 3 came out. By the way, Expedition 33, that game sucked. People try to sit there and say it had a good story. No. It had good moments, characters that were funny at times, but the story's dog trash, and the characters overall are dog trash. The only thing that's good in the game is really the humor of the characters in Expedition 33, but there's so much that I hate about that game. But anyways, it's a game that is just barely good, and it's a game that if it came out around the time that these games were coming out, Expedition 33 is literally like a 5 or 6 out of 10. But because, and maybe on it's not, yeah, it's a 5 or 6 out of 10. But anyways, it's only because of how bad all the rest of gaming is. Expedition 33 right now is probably going to be, as a unique title, it's probably going to be Game of the Year. And that shows how bad gaming has gotten. I mean, obviously, Metal Gear Solid 3, if that came out truly this year, right? It was a new game. That is already Game of the Year. But, you know, it's a remake. So it's just so sad because a lot of people, they do this where we look back in the catalog. If you look at music, bangers used to come out in 1 year. Now, we can't even get a lot of bangers in even 5 years, if any at all. I mean, just the dilution of quality has gone out the drain. You know, there's no great books anymore unless you read my stuff. My stuff is really mother effing good. I am the next Tolkien. Not really. I don't like saying that stuff because you're never the next anything you are yourself. But again, read my freaking crap if you actually want great storytelling. You're literally a retard if you don't pick it up. Any of my stuff, again, if you actually want great storytelling, you're going to pick up my stuff. It's the only good stuff coming out these days, but sadly, everything else sucks. But we look at past movies and we look at past video games. You can see in 1 year, a bunch of great games and a bunch of great movies just come out in 1 year, and it happens for multiple years. Nowadays, 5 years, 8 years have gone by. What the frick is good anymore? And that's a huge problem that we now have ran into. So, I think it's about time that I wrap up this video just because, you know, we've been going long enough, and it would be really appreciative for me that you guys actually support my channel, and by doing that is just supporting the books that I've written for you. If you actually appreciate what I'm doing here and you want me to continue, I literally made something for you guys, and that is great stories. I sit down and I painstakingly work on my stuff. This is not dog crap that I shovel out of my butt. But anyways, and it's made for men. You know, women can read it too, but it's men don't have stories anymore. So that's my goal. That's what I'm doing here. And that's what I've provided for you. But the boss is a woke characterization. She's a proto-woke character. Has no business being what she is in the game and the story. But again, they were able to get away with a lot back then because people were actually good at what they did. And, you know, it just really took me back seeing how great the execution was. Because it just, every moment I was going through the game, I was like, you know, screw the boss, woke character. The fact that she fights Snake at the end of the game, mano y mano, is freaking gay. She's a woman. She has a man jaw. The whole thing is stupid. She should be a man. She should obviously be like the father of Snake or something similar to that. But instead they decided to make a male character, a woman. Okay. It pisses me off. I don't like it. It's woke, but that's what they gave to us. Guys, I appreciate you being here for this video. And we will be, I have a couple of other videos I have planned to come out with. There's a lot of stuff I haven't gotten around to, like Expedition 33. I do need to finally make a video on it because I'm never finishing the game. I couldn't stand the game. I couldn't stand to finish it. I didn't like the game. So I need to make a video though, finally on it. And without further ado, we're going to get into the next couple of videos.